Yeah, Overlord.
Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L, and now it's time to talk Overlord episode 11. And this episode actually has a few talking points coming out of technicalities, so it's going to be a fun one, just because we can talk about the technical aspects of the episode and criticize it, or if you're a follower of the light novel or whatever, we can talk about whether or not this is working out. Alright, cool. Excellent. We're in it. We're in the episode. So first off, I do want to... oh, Jesus Christ. What's the word? I do want to acknowledge, last week, I made a mention about how Ainz was being eviler, and it was just like kind of weird, and I also, you know, there was also like last week the thing with the greater teleport, and then people in the comments had pointed out, hey, no, that's Pandora's actor. So guys, thank you so much for pointing that out. That is a detail that I missed. If it was a detail that was easily found in the light novel, then I totally missed it, or I just forgot about it. But I'm so thankful you guys pointed it out for me. That was such a surprise, and it just makes so much more sense in the context. So I'm totally into it. If I make any more mistakes, let me know. But yeah, let's get into the episode. So the episode, this is... When I went into the episode, I saw the title of the episode. I think it was the name that Demiurge is using, jab something. I forget the actual term. But I saw the episode title and I got kind of scared because it meant that we were going to be going into the Demiurge side of the plot. And I didn't want that because I wanted to finish up the Suade and the Sebastian thing. That's what I wanted out of all of this. So I went into the episode a little bit apprehensive, and what we ended up getting in the episode, without a doubt, it's a full episode. You know, as a viewer, I think you should be more or less happy with this because we got a lot of moving parts here. We got a lot of cool little action pieces. We got some pretty badass moments from Sebas. We got a pretty badass moment from Entoma. Overall, like, you know, the episode is a full episode when you're sitting down to watch it, and it's entertaining. But I was looking at the episode, and the thing is, the Suade and Sebas stuff could have been finished right in this episode. And in the light novel, the way it had originally went was that we finished the Suade and Sebas stuff, and then we started Demiurge's stuff. Like at the beginning of the episode, we find that Demiurge has a secondary plan, but he's not going to tell Sebas. In the novel, it just made for a very clean cut, right? Because Sebas goes and he finishes his part of the plot, then he leaves. In the same way that Demiurge said that he was going to leave. And then Demiurge's stuff started in full force. But this episode is starting both of them at the same time. And what I see this as, when I'm looking at the technicality for the episode, is that they want to make things a bit more climactic, maybe. The only reason I could see putting the Suade stuff in front of the Demiurge stuff and then running them simultaneously, kind of, it's specifically because they want to climax the Sebas story when the other story's also reaching a high point, and they want to climax for the finale of the anime. So that makes sense when you consider how production studios want to do things. If they go for two heavy climaxes in the next episode and the one after that, I think that there's going to be two more at least. It makes sense. All things considered, though, for me personally, I'm more invested in the Sebas stuff. So I'm seeing this, and I'm not gonna lie that, like, just in the back of my head, that purist type response is just going off saying, you guys should have just followed the damn light novel and just had me finish this whole little thing up. But that's my note for here when it comes to the technicality. What's going on is that the anime is adapting the events in such a way that they are trying to make the finale more exciting, more climactic, and they're juggling two pieces that initially were supposed to happen one after the other. So like in the coming episodes, there's also going to be maybe a little bit of justification. Actually, no, both sides are relatively isolated that they could get away with it. So in the long term, I'm not going to make a big deal about it. It's going to be fine, and if anything, it does provide kind of a more interesting episode just because you have action pieces happening for more characters. But it's, again, just one of those things where if you would have rather finish the storyline before starting the other one, that's, I think, where you could start your argument. Anyway, another thing that we can talk about when it comes to technicality when it comes to this episode, and it's not a point about art or anything, it's a point about pacing. And this is pretty good. It's usually very hard to argue pacing when it comes to anime or manga, because pacing is something that depends on the person. It depends on your, your individual likes. If you like slice of life, chances are you like slower pacing. But there are a few tricks that anime studios will use when they're running out of time to showcase material. And in this episode, we have 2 instances of it. Mind you, what they choose to cut out isn't that spectacular. Well, maybe one piece you could like argue that it's spectacular, but what they choose to cut out isn't really overall spectacular, and it doesn't really impact the viewership at all. But it is a pretty cool observation to have when you're noting where they're cutting corners for this production. So the first time that it happened was right with Sebas when he is getting the information from Lockmire and the rest of them about what's going on with Suare. We have a fade to black cut. Think about how often we see fade to black cuts for the same scene. It was just pretty much they were going to tell Sebas what they had just talked about earlier, and they just they just faded away from that. They were pretty much saying, we don't need this information. We know what they're going to tell Sebas, so we can just move on from there. The only thing is that to some degree you could argue that the cut itself is kind of sloppy, just because that's not something that we've seen in Overlord that much. We haven't seen this technique before, and especially when it comes to anime that just loves repeating itself a lot. This is kind of like, okay guys, I get it, you're pressed for time. The second time it happened, and arguably this one could be a bit more critical depending on how you want to take it, is the fight with Entoma and Evil Eye. At the end of the fight, they kind of cut away from the fight, and you only hear everyone using their attacks, and then we shift up to the sky, and then by the time we return, oh, Entoma's on the ground. So you can imagine that was much more engaging in the volume. You can imagine that was much more engaging in the original source material. But they have to cut away time, and they're probably also saving their budget. Unfortunately though, like the fight with Entoma, as you were seeing at the beginning, it was a pretty cool fight. And so I do think they I think they could have done more with that scene, man. Like I think it's a disservice whenever anyone is beaten off screen. Unless it's supposed to be like hyping up a giant villain and then you show the destroyed body. Like this was just, these guys are plebs. They're, like it's unfortunate. It feels bad to watch it, and it's just like, you guys could have done more, man. Like, and Tom was a cool character, and she got like a lot of nice little pieces in this episode. Like, man, if anything, she is creepy, and she's got the gear to make herself even creepier, like the lip bug. Like that thing, when you think about it in practicality, it's like, holy man, like these people are pretty messed up. Anyway, those are the technical notes I have. This is interesting just because these are the moments when you start to see how imperfect adaptations are, and this is the moment when you start to see how imperfect direction or how imperfect decisions can be, because it's now becoming an issue of it's not becoming an issue of adapting things properly. It's becoming an issue of hitting your deadlines and making sure you get all the content you need to get in for the season. So I personally like seeing when it happens, just because it's kind of cool to point it out. But those are my thoughts for it. Now I'm just going to go through the general notes that I have for the episode. So I just have them in the order that they were occurring. So let's see what we got here. Oh, I have a note here saying that keep in mind what Demiurge was saying when he got new information. That's a little thing that they're pushing along. And if you keep watching the Demiurge stuff, anime viewers, you should be noticing that there's something going on with Demiurge and his information gathering ability. And then we also have that shot where Demiurge is talking about who they should not harm under any circumstances. That's a very important shot, but the thing is, I think most anime viewers should be able to figure out who they're talking about. Moving on, I have a note here about the gang getting angry about these people getting spitting on the name of the supreme beings, and it's just funny because these are one of those moments where it's like, guy, like they don't know you, man. Like just calm your shit down. But it's like, no, this is pretty much what it means to be an evil character. This is pretty much what it means to like to have such a giant ego. These are villainous flaws. So this is pretty cool to see it happening with the characters. It's kind of funny when you think about the context. Like if you were just a little bit more reasonable and just like got off your high horse, it's like it's just funny. It's funny in a really macabre sense. Another thing that we got, I found this was a funny note. We got one from oh shoot. Oh man, Brain and oh man, why am I forgetting her name? I had it somewhere. But anyway, Brain and the giant lady. Was that a sex invite? I think that was a sex invite. They were making little jokes, and Brain's like, "Nah, I'm not gonna be able to handle the pressure." I found that really funny. Moving on, another note I really enjoyed. Lockmire. This was a throwaway character that we got for the scene with Sebas, Brain, and Climb. What I really liked about this is like I really liked the side character that is Lockmire in the original novel. Like he's not that important, guys, but I really liked him. So seeing what he actually looks like here, I'm pretty into it. So I'm really excited to see the character, even though I know that he's not gonna be a game changer, but it's still cool. Also, I'm pretty sure Lockmire is a thief, and it's just funny that Climb is the one that's opening the door of the cell with his little bell. Like, why do you need thieves if you have magic bells, right? Other little note, another funny note, I really liked how Sebas just kind of walked up to the door and then just saw his friends and just walked over to them. That was pretty cool. The whole onslaught with Sebas, amazing. 10 seconds. There is that point to say that, again, like, Sebas, like everyone else in the Tomb of Nazarick, they care about Ainz. They hold their supreme deity, their supreme beings in high standing. So, like the moment the man called himself the Undead King, it was like, yeah, this guy's gonna die. Of the 4 characters that died, I'm really sad that we got no extra exposition for the lady character in there, for the sword dancer, just because it was like, oh well, I felt like I could have done with a few more seconds of them despairing. And this is like one of those things where I would come down and say, well, like this is, I think, one of the flaws of putting these 2 storylines together, just because I want to see people despair a little bit more, you know? I want to see them freak out. I want to see them piss their pants, man. It's going to be hilarious. So, you know, that sadistic kind of urge in me just kind of got taken away from me in this episode. And so I'm a little bit miffed. But, thankfully, we got... Okay, so truthfully, when it comes to like this arc in general, the Sebas Suare stuff is my favorite. But then the stuff with Entoma and I think it's Mare. I don't remember which one is a twin. What's the name for the twins? But their stuff is like a pretty close second for me. Just because I was very excited to see what was going to be happening to the lady from the not 6 arms, the 8 fingers, the 6 fingers. Man, so many names, and it's so late when I'm recording this that I'm just forgetting, and I'm so sorry, guys. I hate forgetting names. But her getting pulled out and also getting her foot broken, you know, my sadistic urges were satisfied. So at that point in the episode, I was feeling, okay, like maybe this is gonna be good. And yeah, I was really happy to see that scene. But yeah, at this point, I'm just going through the list now. The only other big point that I have is Vermin Bane, which is a critical advantage for Evil Eye, and Demiurge apologizing for killing off things. Those are just like the funny notes. The last big discussion point that I really wanted to talk about is really coming to Entoma. Oh no, sorry, not Entoma. Actually, yeah, Entoma versus Evil Eye. What I wanted to point out is that it's actually really cool to see that there's someone in this world that can compete with some aspect of the Tomb of Nazarick. It's neat to see this happening. I'm really into it. It's just because like it gives the world a fighting chance, and it just goes to show like, okay, like there are some special people in this world, and this is gonna be a bigger deal for Evil Eye. Specifically with Evil Eye, I also kind of like her because I find her really funny. So the other note that I want to make for this is just, it's funny that in order to be able to compete with the Tomb of Nazarick, Evil Eye had to go and make a specific spell, and thankfully she just happened to have the opponent that that specific spell would work with. But Evil Eye is also a character that's marked by experience, so you know, it's just overall it's cool, but it does show to which degree characters of this world, or the inhabitants of the original world, have to go in order to be able to like even have a chance of fighting off the Tomb of Nazarick. They need to have experience. They need to have these unique measures in place. And it's at the end of the day, it's like Evil Eye can't compete with other maids. Like, right? It's Intoma. Intoma was the one that was the most likely to go down against Evil Eye. So that was a cool note. Anyway, guys, the beginning of the video started off with talking about technicalities. The second part of the video just kind of went into like just me noting things I really enjoyed in the episode, and the third part was just talking about Evil Eye. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Let's call it there. Till next time, I hope you have a great day. And if I missed anything critical, let me know down below. And yeah, till next time, I hope you have a great day.